Okay, Grandmasters, you made it back for part two. So we're looking at this knight g5 move, right, which puts all this pressure on f7. And I showed you in part one that the move bishop c5 is actually playable. It's called the Traxler Gambit. It can get really, really wild. I do not recommend that you play this with the black pieces unless you spend some time studying it. Instead, after the move knight g5, Rusa and I have been showing the kids the move d5, which is black's main response to this fried liver attack. And what that does to white, obviously, instead of just hitting the bishop, it stops this pawn from being taken for free, or so you think, and it gives white a problem in the center. So white's best is to take, and here we're going to show you in the next video the move we recommend is to not take this pawn, but rather play the move knight a5, and you're going to see this in the next video. Here is a demonstration of why we don't recommend you take that pawn. So let's go back to make sure you guys are fully on board. Here's knight g5. It's black's turn. We play the blocking move d5. White takes. Many of you take this pawn, which can get you in a little bit of trouble if you don't know what's going on, because when you take, I mean, it looks like, hey, you know, why not take the pawn? Everything is equal. Here white has the sacrifice knight takes f7, and it is a really, really strong sacrifice, in that you pretty much have to take it because your queen and rook are forked, and it's not like the Traxler Gambit where you have a bishop that can take a pawn to open up the king. Here, you just got forked, so you have to take. When you take, you win a piece for a pawn, but then you get hit with queen f3 check. And if you haven't seen this before, it is really annoying for black. Your knight is also being attacked twice, which leaves you only one move not to lose material, and that's king e6. So now your king is on e6. It's blocking your bishop on c8. It's really, really uncomfortable, especially if white follows through with knight c3. So I found in one of the old WCA files, one of our students who played black in this position got absolutely crushed. And it followed a grandmaster game for a while. So our student played the move knight c to e7, which was one of the recommended moves here. So you retreat your knight to protect this here. And what happens is you end up getting all of your pieces pinned. So I won't show you the game that he played. I will show you a grandmaster game played in this line, and you will see actually a grandmaster playing white. It was a lower rated player with black, but you're going to get an idea of what can happen to you in this line. Why is knight e7 played? Well, obviously, you know, we're giving this knight up here some protection. It's being attacked a whole bunch of times. But the downside to this move is you're blocking in your dark square bishop, you're blocking in your queen, and you're retreating an already developed piece. At your level, not a good idea to play this way. So what happens is white will castle, simple move, and in the game we're looking at today, c6 was played. And c6 just tries to bolster or give a little bit of protection to this knight. It also gives the queen some squares in case she needs to make a run for it. Okay. So here, white plays the move queen e4, which pins the e-pawn. You see how she's pinning this pawn here? So not only does she put pressure on the pawn, she pins it in case this move comes or this move comes, which is another reason she's here. She frees the f-pawn. And if that f-pawn can break, that's going to put a ton of pressure on this king because it's going to free this rook. And by the way, when you do break, just like in the last video, you have to be very careful of these checks. The queen can come out to check here, but unfortunately the bishop cannot because it can't get in the game. So white's not too concerned about that diagonal. Okay, so g6 was played. The idea of g6 is to kind of get ready to protect this pawn when it gets attacked, and it did get attacked. It got attacked right away with the move d4, and all of a sudden, if you're that black king up there, you're probably not feeling so great. You know, you can kind of appreciate the pressure that white's putting on that king. So bishop g7 to support the pawn, and now comes bishop g5. And I absolutely love this game because white played So many simple moves with just powerful ideas. I mean, look at these pins. Look at the 2 white bishops. You see how they're each pinning a knight? And we've already discussed how the queen is pinning this pawn. So every white piece is putting an enormous amount of pressure on black's position. Okay, so after bishop g5, white swings a rook over, gives the knight on e7 a little protection, and then step by step, white just keeps increasing the pressure. So I like to call this the line trick, L-I-N-E, line trick, not lime. That's like if somebody asks for lemon and you give them lime, that's the lime trick. The line trick is when you just start lining up your pieces with the enemy. I mean, look at this. It's like it's all over the place. This bishop is lined up with who? The king. This bishop is lined up with who? The queen. This rook is lined up with who? The queen. Oh, my goodness. So I think black was a little upset here and lashed out. They use that word a lot, to lash out, like when you're upset. Tried to chase the bishop away, maybe hoping for a trade in the middle. You know, take the knight, the pawn can take back. No way. No way. White just drops back and keeps the pressure on that knight. So b4 was played to eliminate this knight being part of the pressure here, but this knight has its idea on this move. You see that square? Yeah, we've talked about squares like this, right? It's kind of in the enemy territory, guarded by one of your pawns, can't be chased away by an enemy pawn. What do we call those things? Oh yeah, outposts. How do you get to the outposts? You got to take a pit stop to the side of the board. Okay, watch this. So queen comes up, clears the back rank, gets her involved, protecting all the squares in the center, but things are not pretty. How do you put more pressure on black? Well, f4, another pawn break. So much pressure. If you look at those 2 pawns, you see how they're both hitting the pawn in the middle, and both of those pawns allow the rooks at the top of the board to have a little bit more space to attack. So f4, and as we say in the business, it's all coming, not pretty. So black decides to make a run for it. Well, king's in the middle of the board, time to open up the game. Pawn takes, hitting the queen. See the rook again? Yeah, it's going to pin the knight too. So the queen has to make a run for it. She goes to c7, and our friend up here, knight c5 check. Oh boy, where do we go? This is not pretty. It's like the roof is open and the rain is coming in. King goes down to d8, but oh no, look at this, another pin, not pretty. Bishop takes. Well, how do you take back? You can't take with the knight because it's check, so you have to take with the pawn. Queen takes check. Now how do you get out of this check? Again, the knight can't take, it's pinned. If the queen blocks, the knight will take your queen. So bishop d7 was played. You see the problem with bishop d7? Yeah, that hangs the rook in the corner. Ouch, ouch. See the other 2 pieces I highlighted for you? They can't block the check. So who's the only player that can block the check? You got that right. Big Mama. Okay, do we trade queens? Or do you see anything better? Stop your video. See if you can find what white played here, Grandmasters. Ouch. Checkmate. Isn't that cool? I would go over this game more than once. You'll learn a lot about chess, and plus you'll get to hear my voice more. Isn't that great? You guys all know Rusa, right? She's very nice. All right, Grandmasters. Part 3's coming.